Here's why momentum starts when you stop trying to finish things and just get fucking started. So let me guess, you don't actually think you're lazy because you know that you're capable, you know that you're intelligent, you know that you've had moments where you've locked in fully when you were dangerous in the best way possible. And that's exactly why this hurts so much more than failure, permanent failure, because you're not failing spectacularly, you're drifting quietly. Your life looks fine on paper, job's okay, money's decent, health isn't falling apart, and your relationships are just about manageable. Nothing's wrong. And that's the problem, because nothing being wrong has become your excuse for nothing changing. So you keep telling yourself, I'll get serious when things slow down, when my work eases off, when my head feels clearer, when I've got more energy, when I've got a proper plan. That's when I'm going to start taking action. And this just holds you back from building any momentum. And you already know how this ends. It doesn't end. So here's the uncomfortable truth that you've been avoiding. You don't struggle with motivation. You struggle with starting without a guarantee that you're going to get the result that you want. You don't trust yourself to finish things, so you don't ever let yourself begin. Listen to that one. You don't start things because you don't trust yourself to finish them. You don't trust yourself to finish, so you avoid starting. Then you quietly lose respect for yourself, which makes starting feel heavier next time. That loop is running your life. And do you want to know what the worst part is? You're self-aware enough to see this happening in real time, but you're not ruthless enough to stop it from happening. And Tuesday nights are where your character actually lives. Let's talk about Tuesday night. Not Monday when motivation's still pretending to exist. Not Friday when you've already mentally clocked out. Tuesday. Because you get home, you sit down for 5 minutes, you check your phone, you tell yourself that you'll just decompress first. And somewhere between scrolling, snacking, and half watching something you don't even like, the night just disappears and it's time to repeat the day all over again. So you never implode. You don't blow your life up in extraordinary fashion. You just don't do the thing that would move your life forward. And the thought that creeps in before sleep isn't dramatic. It's even quieter than that. You think, why do I keep doing this to myself? Why don't I trust myself enough to do more? And that question is heavier than any failure ever could be. Because you're not stuck because you aim too low. You're stuck because you aim too perfect. You don't just want to start. You want to start properly, finish clean, do it consistently, and finally prove to yourself that this time is different. So your brain does what it's always learned to do. It just waits for the perfect time. Because starting for real this time just feels too risky. What if you start properly and then you fail again? What excuse are you going to have left then? So instead you plan, you think, you refine, you watch, you save posts, you screenshot routines, tell yourself you're getting ready, you tell people around you that you're going to make shit happen this year. It's just procrastination. But the worst thing is you're smart enough to dress it up as discipline. So here's the lie that you've been living underneath. Somewhere along the way, you absorb this belief. If I can't do it properly, there's no point starting. But that belief has just cost you so many years. Because life doesn't just reward people who finish perfectly. It rewards people who begin relentlessly and keep moving forward regardless of what the results are saying. Because momentum doesn't come from finishing things, it comes from repeated beginnings. That's what nobody tells you. Doing the thing every single day, whether it's perfect or not. So let me introduce you now to the 5-minute rule. Not as some magical productivity hack, not as some cute Instagram trick. It's an identity shift. The 5-minute rule is so simple. It's unbelievable. You're not allowed to decide whether something is quote unquote worth doing. You're only allowed to decide whether you're going to be willing to begin it for 5 minutes. That's it. No finishing, no outcome, no expectation, just 5 minutes. Everybody's got 5 minutes in a day they can spare. And here's why this works on a level that you've never even considered yet. Your nervous system doesn't trust big promises. Every time you've said that I'm going to get disciplined, I'm going to change my life, I'm going to go all in, and then drifted, your nervous system has learned something about yourself, that your word means fuck all. It's learned that this man talks, but he doesn't follow through. So now, when you try to start something big, your body just resists it and your mind follows. And it's not even because you're weak, because it's protecting you from disappointment. So here's why the 5-minute rule bypasses all of that resistance, because you're not promising big change. You're not promising consistency. You're not even promising crazy results. You're promising 5 minutes. Your system doesn't panic at that. It knows you got 5 minutes in the locker, so you get it done. But that's why starting is more powerful than finishing. Here's the part that might annoy you. Finishing doesn't build self-trust. Actually getting started does. So every time you start, you reinforce one thing. I am someone who begins. I don't just sit around talking. And every time you don't, you reinforce the opposite, that you're just a sitting and talker. Confidence isn't built by outcomes. It's built by micro promises. That's why affirmations feel so fake to you, because your body doesn't believe words. It believes patterns. It believes the actions that you're taking. So the real reason here is why you lose momentum. You don't lose momentum because it gets hard. You lose momentum because you keep asking, can I do this forever? Can I push this to crazy limits? And that question instantly kills your momentum, because forever just feels way too heavy. The 5-minute rule removes that forever from the equation. You're not becoming disciplined. You're not fixing your life. You're not reinventing yourself. You're starting something briefly today, and that's manageable. So this is where most men get it wrong. They try to feel ready before they act, but you already know that this doesn't work. Readiness comes after action, not before it. So here's how the 5-minute rule flips the order completely. Action creates evidence, which creates trust, which creates momentum. But the opposite of that's true. Motivation, confidence, lack of confidence, lack of action, lack of results. So let's make this painfully practical so you've got something powerful to take away from this video. Here's how this actually looks in real life. You don't say that I'm going to train properly tonight and push myself to breaking point. You just tell yourself I'm going to start for 5 minutes. You don't say I need to sort my head out first. I need the stars to align. You say that I'll sit there and I'll write one sentence. I'll make 5 minutes of sales calls. You don't say to yourself, I need to get on top of all this overwhelming work. You just say to yourself, I'll open the document. I'll dial the calls, make these sales calls that are going to make me money. That's it. And here's the part that your ego hates. Sometimes after 5 minutes, you stop, but that still counts. You've still made your mark on the world that day because you didn't betray yourself. You kept the promise. And that's how self-trust is rebuilt, not through intensity, but through reliability. So that's exactly why intelligence makes this so much harder for you. This is important. Less intelligent men don't overthink beginnings. They just act. You, on the other hand, see every implication. You imagine the effort it's going to take, the commitment, the possibility that you might quit again, the judgment from yourself, not even from other people's. So your intelligence actually becomes a liability. But the 5-minute rule disarms that intelligence. There's nothing to analyze. 5 minutes doesn't require you to have a full personality overhaul. So here's the quiet erosion of self-respect that happens otherwise. Let's say the quiet part out loud. You're not burnt out. You're not unlucky. You're not confused. You're just disappointed in yourself. Not dramatically, not even Hollywood blockbuster style. Because every time you negotiate with yourself and lose, every time you delay something you said you'd do, every time you say you're going to start tomorrow, a little bit of that self-respect just starts to disappear. And no amount of external success or money made can ever fill that gap. And that's why things feel off. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your head. A little bald head if you like me. The 5-minute rule is not about productivity. It's about repairing your identity. You're not trying to get more done. You're trying to become someone that you trust again. Someone whose word actually means something. Because 5 minutes is just about enough to prove to yourself that I don't abandon myself at the first bit of resistance. That's unfuckwithable behaviour. And you know, everything I do is about building momentum and becoming unfuckwithable. So this is where I'll say it as plainly as I can. I help successful men who've lost their momentum eliminate self-sabotage from their life and become unfuckwithable. Not through motivation, but through simple daily systems that work even when you don't feel like it. So if this video is already hitting a nerve, which it must be because you've got this far into it, click the link in the description and get the free version of the Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint, which is a system I use myself and I give to all my private clients. But back to the point, because we're about to just go deeper before we finish off. Because this all feels too simple, you're probably thinking. And that's exactly why you'll resist it. Because part of you wants something more complex, more exciting, shiny objects, a bigger breakthrough, a deeper insight, a moment that finally flips a switch. Because because simple means that there's nowhere to hide anymore. Because if 5 minutes a day changes your life over time, then the reason you're stuck becomes very clear. And I know what, that scares you, because it scared me too. Complexity protects your ego, but simplicity exposes it. Because momentum's fragile at the beginning. Momentum doesn't feel powerful at first. It feels small, underwhelming, almost pointless. That's why most men quit early. They're waiting for the feeling. But momentum is a lagging indicator. The feeling comes after the repetition. You get all excited after you've took the action, not before. So stop asking yourself, will this work? Start asking yourself, can I begin? For 5 minutes. That's the only question that really matters. Not, will I stick to this? Will I get results? Will I become elite at this? Will I become one of the world's best? Is this the right approach? Is this optimum? They're all avoidance questions. Beginners' questions are simpler. What happens when you stack beginnings? Something subtle but very powerful happens when you do this daily. You stop seeing yourself as someone who tries, and you start seeing yourself as someone who acts, even when it's not perfect. And that identity shift is everything, because once you see yourself that way, behavior follows naturally, not through force, but through alignment. Let me say that again, not through force, but through alignment. So here's the end game you actually want. You don't want more motivation. You want calm consistency, quiet confidence, self-respect that doesn't need external validation. You want to stop feeling like you're always one reset away from getting your shit together and finally locking in. But that can only come from systems, not motivation, not the sugar rush they call motivation. So here's the final truth, and this is going to sting more than anything else I've said. If you can't trust yourself with 5 minutes, you can't be trusted to build your future. But if you can keep 5 minutes daily, everything changes. Not overnight, not dramatically, but permanently. Your move. So I'll see you in the next video, but don't keep clicking on videos and watching them and doing nothing about it. Begin something for 5 minutes. That's it. And if this felt uncomfortably accurate, comment the word blueprint and I'll send you a free copy of the Become Unfuckwithable Blueprint, which is what I use in my own life and I give to all my private clients. It's just a system that works even when motivation doesn't, because your life doesn't change when you finish things. It changes when you stop avoiding getting started in the first place. I'll see you in the next video. Let's go.